Hello students. Today we are going to learn about how the functioning of kidney is regulated, how various factors are involved in maintaining the various or balancing of the functioning of the kidneys. First of all, we have to understand that kidneys have a lot to work throughout the day. Our kidneys filter out almost 180 liters of glomerular filtrate and produce only a fraction of it as a urine. So there is a continuous cycle of reabsorption, tubular secretion, and there are various checks and balances which maintain this functioning properly. Few of the mechanisms which regulate the functioning of kidneys are like the ADH mechanism, which is regulated through the axis of hypothalamus and pituitary. Next is RAS mechanism, which is the short form of renin-angiotensin-aldosterone mechanism. Third one is ANF, atrial natriuretic factor, which helps in checking all these other mechanisms which are involved in kidney regulation. So let us begin by understanding how these mechanisms revolve around functioning of the kidney. First of all, we have to understand that our kidneys show a glomerular filtration rate of approximately 125 ml per minute, which has to be maintained throughout the health of the kidney. So, in case of loss of body fluid or blood volume or ionic concentration of the blood, there are various cells in our body which sense these changes. Such cells are called as osmoreceptors. These osmoreceptors get activated and this send a stress signal to the hypothalamus, wherein hypothalamus, the neurosecretory cells generate or synthesize a hormone called as antidiuretic hormone or ADH. It is also known as vasopressin. Now, ADH has a lot to do. First of all, ADH goes on to the later parts of the tubule, that is the distal convoluted tubule of the nephron. Remember here, collecting duct also has receptors for ADH, but it is not a part of a single nephron. Rather than various nephrons or various DCTs converge to form a single collecting tubule. So, so the ADH goes on to DCT and to the collecting duct, where it enables the reabsorption of water from this distal parts of the tubule. Now, ADH is also known as vasopressin. So, it also has some mild vasoconstriction ability which is generalized in nature, which means that it causes vasoconstriction in major arteries of the body like renal artery or aorta likewise. So, in that case, through the vasoconstriction, ADH also causes a slight rise in blood pressure, which in turn increases the glomerular filtration rate, which has been reduced by the low blood volume or low body fluid. So, this ADH, which has been synthesized by the hypothalamus, is actually released by the part of pituitary, that is the posterior part of the pituitary. So, that's how hypothalamus and pituitary both are involved in ADH mechanism. Now, coming to the next mechanism which affects the kidney functioning is the RAS mechanism. RAS stands for renin-angiotensin-aldosterone system. When there is low GFR, is low glomerular filtration rate, it is sensed by juxta-glomerular apparatus and particularly macula densa cells. This macula densa cells are present in the contact point of DCT and afferent arteriole. This macula densa cells activate and send distress signal to send distress signals to the JG cells or juxtaglomerular. These juxtaglomerular cells have prorenin formed inside their cytoplasm. This prorenin is converted to renin by an enzyme called as proconvertase 1, or in short, procarboxylase 1. This renin in turn enters the bloodstream, and inside the bloodstream it converts a large protein called as angiotensinogen into its first active form, that is angiotensin first. This angiotensin first is further converted to angiotensin second by the action of angiotensin converting enzyme, or in short ACE. This enzyme, that is ACE, is actually produced by pulmonary endothelium, and it travels in the bloodstream and reaches the kidneys, where it converts the angiotensin first to angiotensin second. Now, angiotensin second has multiple functions. The first function being it is a powerful vasoconstrictor. So, it causes vasoconstriction in efferent artery. Thereby, it increases the effective filtration rate. Secondly, it causes vasoconstriction in the blood vessels of heart also. So, partially or transiently, it increases the blood pressure inside the chambers of heart also. Thirdly, it causes activation of adrenal cortex to release a mineralocorticoid called as aldosterone. Now, this aldosterone has receptors in the DCT, or distal convoluted tubule, where it activates the sodium channels to effectively accelerate the reabsorption of sodium from the DCTs. Now, since the DCT pushes away the sodium to the bloodstream, inside the bloodstream there is slightly raise in blood temperature, blood pressure too. Now, the third function of angiotensin 2 is quite complicated, but it activates the thirst centers in the hypothalamus, where when on activation of this thirst center, we get the urge of drinking water, and thereby we transiently run for the water and grab the bottle and just drink it. So, thereby we can increase the body fluid volume transiently. In short, angiotensin 2 is causing three functions. First, vasoconstriction. Second, activation of adrenal cortex to release aldosterone. And thirdly, the activation of thirst center. Overall, the effect of ADH and angiotensin 2 is such that there is large increase in blood pressure and there is generalized vasoconstriction evolved. In response to that, the atrial cells or the myocardium around the atria releases the atrial natriuretic factor or atrial natriuretic polypeptide. This polypeptide or this factor causes the deactivation of aldosterone receptors, thereby decreasing the reabsorption of sodium and increasing the urinary excretion of sodium, hence the name atrial natriuresis. And secondly, it causes generalized vasodilation. So, due to vasodilation, there is large decrease in blood pressure and there is restoration of normal blood pressure, which has been transiently increased by the action of ADH and RAS mechanism. So, that's how these three mechanisms work together to regulate the functioning of kidney. There are other hormones also involved in the functioning of kidneys, that is thyroxine, which enables the basal metabolic rate, and it causes the urinary excretion of sodium. In turn, it also increases the reabsorption of potassium. Other hormones like parathyroid hormone activate the DCT and PCT to reabsorb more of the calcium ion and phosphate ion, thereby increasing the blood calcium level and overall restoring the ionic concentration. And that's how the kidneys are regulated by the complex mechanisms involving hypothalamus, kidneys, and the heart also. Thank you. I hope you learned a lot and you enjoyed this. Thank you.